purpose of this video is to discuss the variables that you have and the adjustments, and also go through some of the common problems that we see customers having. By far the number one service call we get is the machine is dead and won't do anything, and it's because one of these emergency stop buttons is pushed in. So if your machine will not come on, will not do anything, won't even give you a light on the panel, chances are one of these emergency stop buttons is pressed. Second most common call we get is something that we call a D wave, or a wrinkle that forms in the middle of the prints. So, and this is because that you have the pressure adjusted too tight. So the way to adjust the pressure on this machine is just to bring the roll down. You'll feel it touch, and only go a little bit past there. And the way I usually quantify that is when you bring it down, you feel it touch. If this were the hands on the clock, just go one more hour. If you go farther than that, what ends up happening is you end up actually flexing the top roller a little bit, which makes it lift up in the center, causes the media to push together, and makes what looks like a frown face in the finished product. So be careful that you don't apply too much pressure. Some of our customers just run it with the roll sitting on it, but I find that it gives you a little bit better lamination if you go just past that. The next thing are the brakes, and those are those black adjustments on the ends that you have to change, pull off when you change the rolls. The brakes need to be tight enough to straighten out the film, but not so tight that the machine has problems pulling the material through. It works very similar, if you're familiar with or done any fishing, it works very similar to drag on a fishing line. So you want those to be tight, and your initial set is going to have to be from both sides, but then if you need to add a little bit after that, you can adjust either side because it works by squeezing in on the roll. Another common problem people have with the brake adjustment is that when they put the roll on, if you don't get it tight enough with the two silver screws on there, when you tighten the brake, the hub will actually push out of the end, and you won't get any brake tension, and you'll have wrinkles in your film. So if your brakes are not tight enough, you'll get wrinkles. They'll usually be diagonal lines that form and go out towards the sides, and it can happen also on your media. It's not as common when you have media feeding from the roll, because the media has a little bit more body to it and it doesn't really need that much tension. Another adjustment that you have on the machine, it's a little bit hard to see at this camera angle, so I'll show you a picture of it. That adjustment is called the clutch adjustment, and luckily for most materials in the sign and graphics industry, we don't have to have a lot of clutch tension. So usually I would set that to the farthest out position where the wheel is up against the blue side of the machine, and that'll work well for you for most adjustments. If you get that too tight, what it's going to do is have a tendency to want to make the laminating film climb up onto the clutch or onto the rewind roll and get caught. So if you find you're having that problem where the laminate is wanting to wrap up onto the rewind, it could be that you've got the clutch adjusted too tight. That also could be related to the brake adjustment too, because they do, since they're hooked together by the release liner, they do work together. So you could either have too much clutch or not enough brake that will cause that problem. The next variable is speed. I can't stress enough that when you first learn how to use this machine, you want to keep your speed low. I say speed 2, and even at speed 2, this laminator will outrun most digital wide format printers on the market. So keep it slow until you feel comfortable. You'll have a lot more time to react if something is going wrong, Once you get the hang of it and become a little bit more proficient, then feel free to turn it up. You certainly can run roll to roll at full speed. We have many customers that do. I would say when you turn the speed up, you want to do that in a gradual fashion. The other variable is heat. The 400 and 500 series machines have what they call top heat assist, and what that is just a little bit of warmth coming from a heater that's installed in the main roller, and it's going to help you with a problem that's called silvering. Silvering is sort of a normal thing that happens when laminate is laid down onto a dark colored print. You may see a little hazing in the laminate because it hasn't cured yet. So if you we find that if you turn a little bit of heat on, it will help to eliminate some of the silvering. Incidentally, the silvering will cure out by itself over time as well if you don't use heat. The downside to using heat is some materials are very flexible, especially the materials that are used for car wraps, and if you get them too warm, they have a tendency to want to stretch on you. So you may or may not be able to use the heat based on what materials you're using. And one more tip there is that I find that the mark between 1 and 2 on here will get you about 100 degrees. So those are some of the variables and the common problems that people run into. If you're having any trouble yourself, feel free to send us an email or give us a call. Thank you.